Project. 100 Years, 100 Women Project. Hi, my name is DeSiano. I'm a visual artist, a Brooklyn native living in New York City. I have a mixed practice of photography and public art. Over time, my photographs became sculptures, they became wall hangings, they became different three-dimensional forms. And from there, I realized that I wasn't as interested in exhibiting in galleries as I was in having people that weren't necessarily artists see my artwork. And what I mean by that is I'm an educator. I'm a professor at Kutztown University. And I really enjoy discussing art and having people who are not trained to see nor speak about art experience it. And I enjoy seeing their interpretations and their impressions of visual arts. I definitely learn a lot about what perception is. And so much of my practice is about perception, the way we see things, what we believe we see, why we tend to be attracted to certain things and not other things. So the kind of accidental logical conclusion became public art. I was able to make my artwork, turn my photographs into three-dimensional objects like sculptures, and then I was able to install them in public spaces where people would come across them not necessarily because they had planned a trip to a museum or to a gallery, but because they were going about their day. And I think that is the moment I got really excited about the public art practice, is seeing that art can be something that happens while the rest of your life is happening, was really exciting for me. In recent years, my work has become, I would say, pretty politicized. I'm really interested in the dialogue happening about monuments. Again, as a native New Yorker, I grew up with a lot of really both visually striking monuments, such as the Roosevelt statue in front of the Museum of Natural History. I remember that very vividly from my childhood. And as I became older, I became more aware of how problematizing it is. And I became aware of how so many of the monuments throughout cities, both in America and Europe, really celebrate something that rather than holding up, we should really be saying this was not okay, this is not right. As I get into showing you some of my more recent projects, I just want to kind of talk about the overarching themes throughout my work. One of them, as I said, is kind of the engagement of the general public with art. But I'm really interested in how people respond to forms, how shapes like the obelisk, which is something you'll see happen throughout my work, the body relationship to these forms in the public space. I'm interested in photo history. Photo history is really how I learned about the world. And what I'm interested about is how photo history is both a truth teller and a myth maker. It's heavily edited. It's sometimes not informative in the way that it actually happened. There's a long history of people believing photographs and also a long history of people mistrusting photographs. If you go back far enough, there are people that believed taking a photograph of you stole your soul. So I think the history of photography as it plays out in quote-unquote pop culture is really an integral part of my work. I'm interested in the ramifications of photo manipulation, and that could be photo manipulation in the sense that you're using Photoshop to make something look different than it actually was, or it could mean photo manipulation by putting a juxtaposition of two photographs together to create a completely different meaning. And then finally, I'm really interested, as I said, in the role of monuments right now. And so both my actual photographs and my objects engage with monuments. And I think the monument dialogue is 100% linked together with, again, my interest of history. Unsung Heroines, part of the Absent Monument series. Initially, I intended to build a physical obelisk, a monument to the women that brought forth the 19th Amendment. However, after the COVID pandemic, I found myself with no access to the New York Public Library, where I was intending to use their photo archives, nor was I able to access my studio or fabricating facilities to create the monument. Soon, it became clear that the show would not happen in person, and social distancing and quarantining became the new reality. Attempting to avoid high traffic areas with my 1-year-old son, I spent a good portion of the spring teaching him to walk in Greenwood Cemetery, a historical cemetery, but also where my grandparents are buried, where my parents will be buried, and where I too will be laid to rest with my husband and child. Surrounded by breathtaking sculptures and soaring obelisk monuments dedicated to the well-known white men of New York City, I became enchanted and fascinated by all the tombstones marked wife of, daughter of, with no other information. Diving into the Greenwood Cemetery archives, I discovered that many incredible women have been buried there, unsung and uncelebrated. This project is an attempt to correct that. And that's when I came up with the virtual version of my Absent Monument series, Unsung Heroines, a website where you can create a monument, an obelisk, dedicated to a woman or a series of women that you feel went underrepresented, unsung, and unpraised for their accomplishments during their lifetime. I'm asking people to participate and to create their own monuments by uploading their own personal photographs or pointing me to websites that host archival images of historic, uncelebrated women. By opening the website to the public, people are able to add their own histories, aunts, nieces, cousins, sisters, mothers, an opportunity to make archives become part of present day reality, to take history out of mothballs, to bring to the surface the labor, the work, and the power of women that created the moment we live in today. Creating an archive, a photographic collection of all the monuments dedicated to the various women that have achieved so much is an opportunity to not only share, but to educate, an invaluable collection that asks us all to know more, to appreciate more, and to work harder in the present to shape our future.